I have found myself enjoying this small $1,400 electric motorcycle more than my $4,500 RAR Mantis. And in fact, I've come to the conclusion that this bike model may be one of the best electric dirt bikes ever made for the price. But this thing is essentially an electric Honda CRF 110, but way cheaper. It has a 45 mph top speed with plenty of torque, a 23.5 amp-hour battery, a steel frame that is not only well made, but looks amazing, dual motorcycle suspension, these massive brakes, very solid foot pegs, a keyed ignition with a colorful LCD display that gives you all of your information, a programmable far driver controller, and fitted plastics that give this bike an IPX6 water resistance rating. All of this for just $1,400. Now, all of this sounds good, but how does this bike actually perform? What has been good about this bike so far, and what are the caveats? Now, please, if you haven't already, make sure to go ahead and smash that subscribe button so you can help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of this year. And if you're looking to buy this bike, make sure to save $85 using the discount code in the description of this video. I would say one of my favorite things about this bike is the ability to mod this thing without breaking your bank account. And I'm not just talking about like swapping out the foot pegs or the handlebars, things that cost $20, $30. No, I'm talking about big power upgrades that can make this thing go from 40 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour for way cheaper than you can with basically any other bike. Now let me explain. This bike has a far driver 72 volt controller. Now for some of you guys this may not mean too much, but what this means to me and other people who like to modify these things is that you could upgrade this bike to 72 volts without replacing the controller or the motor. All you need is a Bluetooth dongle that allows you to access this controller's internals and allows you to actually tweak this bike so that you can make it accept a 72 volt battery. Out of the box, this bike is going to give you a top speed of around 40 miles per hour. We're actually hitting it right now. It says we're going 39.8. This is pretty crazy for a bike that costs $1,400. Like, yeah, I do know that there are a few bikes that you see on Amazon that maybe go a little bit faster for this price, but none of them go this fast while maintaining the same quality that this bike has with all of the other components. Just look at the torque that this thing has. It's like, dude, it just wants to wheelie. Everybody keeps telling me that they can do this on the Tudio Soleil 1, which like technically you can, but not as easily as you can on this bike. And when I do comparisons to show people how much more power this bike has, they always tell me that I'm lying. For some reason, I guess Tudio kind of has this cult following, so people are going to defend it. Dude, I love this bike. So yeah, this bike has a crap load of power straight out of the box, reaching 40 miles per hour. You're gonna be able to wheelie this bike super easily because it just has a ton of torque. But then I wanna show you guys the plastics that this bike has. The plastics look like they came from the same factory that everything else on this bike was made from. And what I mean by this is a lot of bike companies will throw kind of slapstick plastics on their bikes that aren't really meant for their frame design, but they look good enough to kind of pass, so they'll sell it to you anyways. These plastics look like they were designed specifically for this frame, which is why this bike just looks so good. On top of that, these plastics give everything on this bike a really good seal, allowing this bike to have an IPX6 water resistance rating. I want to show you guys the back here. You can see how well sealed everything is. You have this little flap here to keep mud away from your rear shocks. So that's another thing that's good for cleaning this bike, right? And then you can see around the controller just how well sealed everything is. Everything on this bike is sealed so that it's waterproof, dust resistant, and easy to clean. Now I think the next thing for me has got to be the brakes. Check this out. Whew. We got a loud ass plane taking off right now. Jesus, those things are fast. I know planes use like most of their fuel when they're taking off. But anyways, the brakes on this bike are actually amazing. Like, these things lock up the wheels on this bike so fast. They are the same brakes that the Tudio Soleil 1 has, which is awesome. So if you have the Tudio, you're gonna be getting similar stopping power to the Yozma IN10. Also really good for wheelies, because when you're wheeling, you use that rear brake lever to keep you from tipping all the way back. And this just allows you to kind of be safe from hurting yourself. See, if I go too far back, I touch this rear brake, and this bike just allows me to go right down without an issue. All right, so I'm taking this bike to some off-road trails here because I want to show you guys another feature that I really love about this bike, and it's its off-roading capabilities. This bike is super capable off-road despite being so small, so budget. And what makes this bike so good for off-roading is not only the durability of the frame, like it's a steel frame, super good riding geometry, which makes this thing easy to flick around, but it's also the suspension. It is great on this bike. It is the same suspension that's used on the Tudio Soleil 1. So again, if you have a Tudio, you'd be able to expect sort of the same thing. But regardless, it's just really good for the price. It's like, how did they jam all of these great features in this bike for this cheap? The world may never know, but it really allows you to actually carry a lot of speed into some of these trails here. This is so much fun. This is like a new experience for me. I have never ridden here before, which is like interesting because I've been riding all around town. I don't know why I've neglected to check this place out. Hey, oh, here's a tree log. Went right over that log right there. Whew. Yeah, the lightweight and low center of gravity that this bike has really allows you to carry some speed going around these corners without too much of an incident. And the torque that this bike has, you know, makes carrying you up a hill no problem, which on some other bikes, they definitely like to slow down a lot, but this thing will just keep that speed. And all right, I didn't want to, but now I gotta talk about the things that I don't like so much about this bike, right? Everything I just mentioned is like huge on this bike. Like, these are the reasons why I take this bike out, you know, more than basically any other bike in my collection. And I've had a lot of bikes before. I gotta say, this has been my favorite e-bike that I've reviewed on this channel so far. Better than the Tudio just because it's faster and has some better features. And even though I have a 72 volt RAR Mantis that goes like 55 miles per hour, I'm still taking this thing out on the daily. You know what I'm saying? Just over the RAR Mantis. But it's got a few things that I don't like so much. The first thing is that it's really loud. This bike is super loud. It's probably just as loud as like a CRF 110. So like, if you're getting this bike because it's electric and you want it to be quiet, it's certainly not quiet, which does kind of suck because I really like quiet bikes. And then my other thing has to be the seat. The seat on this bike looks really cool. Like, the design was definitely made for this bike to look cool, but unfortunately that's not everything. Comfort is a big deal. And this bike simply is not as comfortable as the Tudio Soleil 1. I'm gonna pull off to the side here to show you guys the seat design. And it's not quite as comfortable as a lot of other bikes that I've reviewed, simply because it's very thin, especially where a lot of people are going to be sitting because this bike is so small. I'm sitting back here. There's basically no padding. Whereas with the Tudio Soleil 1, it's at least twice as thick back here, and it's super comfortable. You can sit on it all day with no issues. This is a very thin seat, and unless you're the actual size that this bike is designed for, maybe like 5'4", and you're sitting up here, then this bike is going to be a little bit uncomfortable on your butt. Now, there are things you can do to get around this, maybe add padding to your pants, etc., etc., but it is a little bit uncomfortable. And again, nitpicking here, it's not that bad. Another thing that I don't like too much about this bike, which I guess is not too big of a deal for a lot of people, is that it is really small. So this is actually a positive in many ways, but I can see a lot of people who are on the bigger side. They want to get a good budget electric motorcycle and they're looking at the Yozma. This bike is definitely on the smaller size, so if you're over 6'3", this might be a no-go for you. I would say if you're under 6'3", it's definitely something that you can pull the trigger on, and it's probably going to be able to fit you all right. But again, this is a bike size-wise that is designed for basically kids. So it is very small, and I can see that being an issue for some people. But other than that, I do praise this bike a lot. It's basically perfect. A few honorable mentions here has to be the wire management. You can see that this brake cable just goes through here, and it's sort of managed by this plastic piece right here. A lot of the cables are being covered by this front number plate here. You can see that they're going through here. Just makes the bike look super clean and tidy out of the box. The wire management is just super good. You don't really see many of the cables. Of course, it's got a charge port on the outside of the bike, which is something the Tudio Soleil 1 did not have. I also want to talk about the frame again. You can see the welds here are actually very well done. Like, these are good quality welds done by somebody who actually cared when they were putting together this frame, which is very surprising for a cheap Chinese bike. And then my favorite honorable mention has to be the light switch. You got this little button right here. You press it, and then you can unpress it, and it has this super bright metal light that's just sitting on the front of the bike. This thing is a floodlight. If you just turn it on down a long dark road, it would flood the entire road. Actually, on my way back, I'm just gonna try it right here, and I'll give you guys an idea of how bright this light looks. And then of course, we got rubberized grips. We've got this nice electronic throttle, which is really awesome. And that might be about it. I mean, this is the best bike that I've ever reviewed for the price. Not even anything more I can say about it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like this video for that YouTube algorithm, comment, and I'll see you guys soon in the next one. Later.